Today we're going to hear the Shulamite's voice of wisdom. So the question of the morning is, did the Shulamite live out these colors, green, purple, and orange, wisely? Was she wise in how she handled her relationship with Solomon before they were married, during their marriage, later on in life? We're going to answer these questions this morning as we listen to her voice of wisdom. And if you'd like to follow along in your workbook, please turn to page 20. What has the Shulamite already shared with her single sisters? We learned over the last 2 weeks that as a single woman, the Shulamite embraced her sexual desire without guilt and without shame. But she also made a choice to manage those sexual desires, to protect her values, and to protect her future. This morning, we're going to look at how she chose wisely who she was going to love. What steps did she take in exploring if Solomon was a good choice for her? We're going to be looking at the beginnings of love. Now, we learned last week that all too often, couples who engage in sexual activity before they get married find out that after they're married, they really don't have a clear picture of who they married, who is this person. And I'd like to read a story. This story was written by Russell Dix. He's a marriage counselor in Florida. And I think it speaks to what I'm trying to say here. I'm going to read it right now. Assuming that sexual expression is irresistible, like a flood, many couples find themselves standing before a minister to be married. The minister says, "Do you take this woman with all her immaturity, her self-centeredness, her nagging, her tears, her attention to be your wife forever?" The dumb ox, temporarily hypnotized by the prospect of being able to sleep with her every night, mumbles, "I do." Then the minister asks the starry-eyed bride, who is all of 18, "Do you take this man with all of his lust, his moods, his indifference, his immaturity, his lack of discipline to be your husband forever?" She thinks that forever means all of next week, because she's never experienced 1 month of tedious responsibility or denial of her wishes. So she chirps, "I do," in the thought that now she has become a woman. Then the patient minister parrots, "By the authority committed unto me as a minister of Christ, I pronounce you man and wife." And as he does, he prays a silent prayer for forgiveness, for he knows he lies. They are not now husband and wife, and he knows that few of them ever will be. They are now legally permitted to breed, fuss, bully, spend each other's money, and be held responsible for each other's bills. It is now legal for them to destroy each other, so long as they don't do it with a club or a gun. And the minister goes home wondering if there isn't a more honest way to earn a living. Why, this might bring a smile to some of our faces because we know that there's some truth in this story. It should also bring us some sadness. To many couples who enter the promise until death do us part, we find that they don't know each other, that they haven't been able to work on how to solve some of the problems in their marriage. They don't have the skill, and they had little concern before they married as to what kind of baggage the other might bring to the table. The scripture passage that we're going to look at this morning is going to teach us how to avoid those mistakes. So if you would, please turn to the book of Psalms, chapter 2, verse 8. Now let me give you a little bit of background. This passage of scripture gives us a glimpse of what the courtship was like between Solomon and the Shulamite. And yes, I did say courtship. That's an old-fashioned word. A friend of mine likes to remind me of that. But this isn't about dating. There's a difference between courtship and dating. Dating is observation. Courtship is involvement. Dating is a time set aside to go out and have some fun. Courtship is directional. It's moving towards something. Dating has no strings attached. Courtship involves some mutual responsibility, more vulnerability, a greater need for trust. I like this one. Dating is marketing. Courtship is negotiating a potential sale until it closes. Courtship begins with the decision to date somebody exclusively. And it either is going to end with a formal engagement or a definite breakup. And let me tell you, I've seen some breakups, and they get pretty messy. People walk away, and they're bitter, and they're hurt, and they're confused. There are courtships that end badly. We need to learn to do courtship right, ladies. And if you're single here this morning, you need to take some notes on this part of the lesson. And if you're not single, you take some notes too, because there's somebody in your life that you know is single. We need to learn to do courtship right. There are several points in this passage that we're about to read that gives guidance on how to do courtship wisely. So if you're there in chapter 2 and begin in verse 8. Now the Shulamite is talking, and she says, "The voice of my beloved, behold, he comes, leaping over the mountains, bounding over the hills." Now what's going on here? Remember that the Shulamite lived where she worked. She lived in the vineyards. Her home was more likely at the foot of a mountain range, a beautiful mountain range. And she had meadows and gardens all around her and vineyards. And maybe she was home from work and she was resting her feet and she was sitting and she heard something and it sounded like her beloved. So she looked out the window. And sure enough, in the distance, over the hills, came the mountains. And she says that I saw him and he was leaping over the mountains. He was bouncing over the hills. And she goes on and says, "My beloved is like a gazelle. He is fast." Or a young stag. Boy, does he look good. Boy, does he look sexy. And then it says, "Behold, there he stands behind our wall, grazing through the windows, looking through the lattice." So now he had come aggressively and fast over the mountains and over the hills. But when he arrived to our house, he stopped right on the other side of the wall. And he looked in the window, looked through the lattice, and he was just quiet. My guess is he was just beholding the Shulamite. He had missed her. He was traveling to see her. And then finally he speaks in verse 10. She says, "My beloved speaks and says to me, 'Arise, my love, my beautiful one, and come away.' Hey, Shulamite, let's go for a walk. For behold, the winter is past, and the rain is over and gone. It is great weather out here. The flowers appear on the earth. The time of singing has come. And the voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land. The fig tree ripens its figs, and the vines are in blossom. They give forth fragrance. Arise, my love, my beautiful one, and come away." He is trying to get her to leave the house. Come on. We can enjoy one another. We can spend a few hours with one another. Come on out. He goes on to say in verse 14, "Oh my dove, an affectionate term, in the cleft of the rocks, in the crannies of the cliff." This is where she lived. Remember, she was at the foot of the mountains. She says, "You're all bottled." He said, "You're all bottled up in the house. Come on out." And he says, "Let me see your face. Let me hear your voice. For your voice is sweet, and your face is lovely." What's going on? He wants to see her. He wants to spend time with her. He simply enjoys her presence. And what we're seeing here is friendship, is dark green. They are courting. So point 1, love wisely. Start with friendship. Get to know one another. Solomon and the Shulamite were doing that. They were spending time with one another. He was trying to draw her out of the house. They were developing their dark green. So the Shulamite takes Solomon up on his offer to go for a walk. She grabs her purse and her hat and throws her shoes on, and I can just imagine them walking down the country road, and they're focused on one another, and they're catching up. What's been going on in your life there in Jerusalem? And let me tell you about some things that have been going on in my life. And then she gets distracted. She looks off to the side, and she sees a fox. And we read in verse 15, this is the Shulamite talking to Solomon. Catch the foxes for us, the little foxes that spoil the vineyards, for our vineyards are in blossom. Now we got to learn about these little foxes. They're annoying little critters. Foxes typically don't grow more than about 15 inches, but they're very, very destructive. They like to nibble at the little bud before the blossom comes to maturity. They like to gnaw on the roots, dig tunnels under the vines. And if you leave them alone long enough in the vineyards, they're going to destroy the whole field. The Old Testament refers to the foxes as a symbol of proverbial destruction. And getting rid of these little guys is tough. It reminds me of moles that we have at our house around springtime. I walk out there and sure enough, there's a tunnel. And so we buy all the things that are advertised to get rid of the moles. And just about the time I think those moles are gone, I walk out to water my plant and I step on a new tunnel. They're hard to get rid of. So what did the workers do? They would build their homes and their villages right in the middle of the vineyard. They had access to the vineyard, and they would watch the vineyards for wild animals and for foxes. They would persevere. It was hard to pay attention to these things, to these guys, but they would not give up because they knew if they didn't take care of the foxes, that their vineyard would be destroyed. Here the foxes seem to be a symbol of the little problems that the Shulamite and the maiden might be having. They were courting. They weren't big problems. They didn't know each other well enough. But she had the wisdom to say, we need to take care of these little problems now. And that's why she says to Solomon, catch the foxes for us, those little foxes that spoil these vineyards over here, for our vineyards are in blossom. We're just starting out. We're just getting to know each other. We are in medium colored green and moving into dark green. I need you to commit to me that you will help catch the little foxes, the problems. She wisely compares their love to a vineyard because a vineyard can be good and it can grow. And theirs was blossoming. And just like the foxes can ruin a vineyard, so a number of things can ruin a relationship. Point 2, in loving wisely, in deciding who you're going to love. Learn to catch the foxes. Learn to solve problems before you get married. Now the conversation ends, and it ends in an interesting way. Here the Shulamite had asked Solomon for the commitment to work on those little problems, and then she kind of sneaks one in. And I'm not sure that he was really aware of it. But this conversation ends with her still talking to Solomon in verse 16. And she says, my beloved is mine and I am his. He grazes among the lilies until the day breathes and the shadows flee. Turn, my beloved, be like a gazelle or a young stag on cleft mountains. Now what's she saying here? They could have ended their walk. They could have come up to the door and he's saying his goodbyes. And she says to him, hey, I'm your girl and you're my guy. We're courting. We made that decision to get in this committed relationship and see where it goes. I know you have to go to work. I know that you've got some other things you have to do, but before it gets too late in the day, could you kind of hurry up and get through that and swing back by the house so we can spend just a little bit more time with one another before you head back to Jerusalem? Now I know what you're thinking. You're sitting out there and you're saying, how can I get all of this out of 2 verses? Well, let's tear it apart and find out. When she says, my beloved is mine and I am his, she's admitting they're courting. We're working on this. And then the Shulamite says, in the second part of that verse, he grazes among the lilies. It's highly unlikely that Solomon left Jerusalem and traveled down to Lebanon to go on a spring walk with the Shulamite just for that reason. Chances are he was probably mixing business with pleasure. He was probably there taking care of kingly things or state of affair things. He probably had overseers he had a meeting with. He had to check out the vines. He had to look at, talks about the spices, the fields of spices. He had to do all of this, and he thought, you know what, I've got a little bit of a break. I'm going to go by and see this woman I love and hope to marry one day. And so she says, when you're at work, and that verse, or that part of the verse, it says, he grazes among the lilies. No shepherd would feed their sheep among a field of lilies. These are words that represent, they are symbols. And grazes means he is present. Lilies, his people. So he is present with his people. He is doing his job as a king. And then she goes on and says, so go do that. I know that's why you're here. But before the shadows are gone, before the moon comes up, swing by and say hi. Can we just connect one more time before you return to Jerusalem? She had an issue. She had a fox. And that was separation from him when he was working. He might have been a workaholic. And that's why she wanted him to come back by. Now, we don't know if he did. We don't know if he swung back by there and connected again. What we do know is chapter 3, verse 1 starts off with, on my bed by night. It's late. She's sleeping. This is a dream that we're being told here in the first part of chapter 3. It says, I sought him whom my soul loves. I sought him, but I found him not. What's going on here? She's sleeping and she's having a dream. I like what the New American Standard reads. On my bed, night after night, I sought him. This was a recurring dream. And it was about something that was nagging at her. There was an uncertainty. It was as if there's something bothering me. I don't know if any of you have ever done this where you've had a dream and you go to sleep and you dream about it. It keeps coming up. And so this is what was going on with the Shulamite. And she says, I sought him, but I found him not, because he was always gone. He was always gone. Every time she looked, he was off working, or at least that was her experience and her perception of that. And so she goes on in verse 2 and says, I will rise now and go out into the city, into the streets, and into the squares. And I will seek him whom my soul loves. I sought him, but I found him not. She was going out into the city. Well, she was home in Lebanon. In her dream, she was in Jerusalem. And she got up and she went out into the city and she bumped into the watchman. And it tells us here in verse 3, the watchman found me as they went around in the city. And so she asked him, have you seen whom my soul loves? She's looking for him in the city. And then it goes on in verse 4, it says, scarcely had I passed them, the watchman, when I found him whom my soul loves. She found him. And then what did she do? It says that I held him, and I would not let him go until I had brought him into my mother's house. She was back in Lebanon. She was back home. Now here she was in the city. She was in the palace. She was married. She woke up in her dream. She couldn't find him, so she went out to look for him. And then when she found him, she wouldn't let go of him until she had brought him to her mother's house. She was back in Lebanon, and dreams will do that. They can switch scenes easily. And why would she even bring Solomon back to her mother's house? Because it was the place she felt the most secure. What's going on here? She wants to marry Solomon. She loves him. She wants to live with him in Jerusalem. She also wants to live in the countryside. She may wonder and be worried, will I be out of place in the palace? Will I fit in? Will he be gone all the time to work? The Shulamite is seriously counting the cost. Will I be married? If I marry the king, will I be happy? The next verse is that warning, and we've read it before. In verse 5, I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles and the does of the field, that you not stir up or awaken love until it pleases. We looked at this verse last week. I imagine that she had her dream, she woke up, she got dressed, she had something on her calendar to meet with her girlfriends, and she's sitting there and they're having coffee, and they may have said, hey, how's everything going with Solomon? Tell us, we want to hear if the relationship is really gelling. And she leans over and she's serious. She says, I'm going to warn you girls, don't you stir up love. And let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. I'm just getting to know him. We're working on our foxes. I got to see if we can solve some of our issues, some of our problems. I've got to decide, can I deal with the fact that he is a king? He's bringing some baggage to this relationship. What's that going to look like? And the last thing I'm going to do is get sexually involved with him. Because if I get sexually involved, all my good judgment goes out the window. I can't think straight. So she's saying, if you're going out with anybody, if you're dating anybody, make sure you don't stir up love. Point 3, in loving wisely, she considers the cost. She has a lot to think about. This dream helped the Shulamite realize how much she really did love Solomon, because we read in verse 4, I held him, and I would not let him go until I brought him into my mother's house. She decides that she can live with his absence. She decides that she can be married to a king. The dream gave her some clarity. But what does the Shulamite say to our single friends, both never married, and even those of you who have been married before, but you're currently single? Pick wisely who you're going to love. Don't enter it too quickly. Don't become sexually involved. It's going to cloud your good judgment. You have a lot to think about. What did the Shulamite say to her married friends? Tend to your marriage wisely, and your love will build. Tend to your marriage wisely, and your love will build. You've already tied the knot. You're in this. And there's a lot of challenges in marriage. And one of the biggest challenges is sexual adjustment. Very few times will you ever marry someone who has the same matching sexual drive or desire as you. We've often heard it said, he's a microwave, she's a crock pot. That's more true than we want to admit to. Men and women are different, and when you get married, there is some real sexual adjustment in the best of relationships. He begins with desire. He's in the mood, which is mostly all the time. And he comes in, and he's got the desire, and he wants to act on that desire. Most women, on the other hand, more often than we want to admit, begin with the decision. We're not always in the mood, but we need to make the decision and then move to the mood, which eventually moves to arousal. The gender views are different. They're in a different order between men and women. Women want that emotional connection before sex. We want to get comfort from our guy. We want to feel close to them. Men, on the other hand, want sex, and then they want that emotional connection. It is after they have been sexual with a woman that they feel most vulnerable, and they begin to open up. One of the questions that came a couple weeks ago was, isn't it man's responsibility to maintain an emotional relationship? Yes, but it's both of our responsibilities. It just takes different twists and turns with a man. And finally, he keeps sex in a box. And he keeps fights in a box. And they don't cross over. You can have a knockout, drag-out fight and go to bed that night, and he wants to be intimate. Because they're in two different boxes. Women, on the other hand, sex impacts everything. If a husband looks at her wrong, she stops and says, what are you looking at? What are you looking at? Sex impacts everything with a woman. There is an adjustment. We've all heard it said one time or another. Sex is between the ears for the woman. What we think about our husband is largely impacted on how we respond to them sexually. Last week, we looked at chapter 5, verse 2, which is the beginning of the second major part of the psalm. And we studied this argument, or this conflict, that the Solomon and the Shulamite had. And it was over sex. He'd come to the door, it was late at night, he was wet from the dew, and he knocks, and he wants the Shulamite to get out of bed and let him in, and he wants to connect with her, and she doesn't want to. She turns him down, and he persists, and he puts his hand through the hole. He doesn't lift the latch, but she sees it, and in seeing it, she changes her mind. So she gets up, took her a little bit, she put her robe on, she goes to the door, she opens it. He had already turned away. He was gone. And that caused her great distress. So she leaves. She says, "Where's my beloved?" And she looks for him everywhere in the palace. And she runs out into the street. She bumps into her friends. They said, "What's up?" She says, "I can't find my beloved." She was upset. And what we find here is there were two fundamental attitudes that surfaced with the Shulamite after this sexual conflict. And the first one was, well, they both had everything to do with what she thought about her husband. So her friends ask her, they say, "Well, where is he? Where did he turn? We'll help you find him." Or who is this guy? And she begins in verse 10 of chapter 5. And we read that last week where she describes him physically. "My beloved is radiant and ruddy. His lips are lilies dripping liquid mirth. His arms are rods of gold set with jewels. His body is polished ivory. His legs are alabaster columns." And she closes it in 16. "He is altogether desirable." When they said, "Why are you so upset?" she tells them, "Let me tell you about my beloved." She was having a love affair with his body. Now let me pause here for a minute. Don't you ever think that women are not visual? Don't you ever think that we are not drawn to a handsome man? I think that was a man's idea to come up and say that women were not visual because it gave them the excuse to put on weight and dress sloppy. We are visual. These verses right here, 6 verses, where the Shulamite is describing her lover physically. She was drawn to those things in his body that she thought were sexy, were good. She loved the looks of Solomon. She thought of him physically. And then number 2, what did she think of Solomon's character? What did she think of who he was? We read where her friends say, "Where did he turn? We'll help you find him." And at that point, she had taken a step back, kind of composed herself, and she said, "You know what? I know where he's at. I know my husband. I don't have to look for him anymore." She responds when they said, "Where did he turn so that we may seek him with you?" And in verse 2, the Shulamite says, "My beloved has gone down to his garden, to the beds of spices, to graze in the gardens, and to gather lilies. I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. He grazes among the lilies." The New American Standard reads, "He's gone down to pasture his flock in the gardens." The Amplified Bible reads, "He's gone off to feed his flock." The Contemporary English Version says, "My darling has gone down to his garden of spices, where he will feed his sheep." The Good News Translation says, "My lover has gone to his garden, where the balsam trees grow. He is feeding his flock in the garden and gathering lilies." I could quote all 51 versions that I reviewed, but I won't. Why am I reading so many different versions? Because sometimes, especially in the Psalm, we have to pull in these different versions to get a sense of what's going on. A good question from last week. Did Solomon go to the concubines or to another woman when he left the Shulamite's bedroom door? Whose garden is being referred to in chapter 6, verse 2? In this verse, the garden is not a whose, it's a place. Now last week, when we looked at chapter 4, verse 12, the Shulamite's garden, the whole chapter was referring to parts of her body where Solomon was admiring her. And it was her garden. But here the word garden is a place. How do we know that? He has gone to work. It's his garden. It says, my beloved has gone down to his garden, to the bed of spices. He had probably had left the night before when the Shulamite wouldn't open the door. He probably went back to his own bed chamber, went to bed, got up the next morning, dressed, shaved, and went off to work. He was at work. He owned a lot of land, and he was out checking up on the land. And to the bed of spices. So, that was very important in those days because cultivating these beds of spices was vital for the preservation of their food. He was at work, and she knew it. What's the message here? We see it in verse 3. I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. She's talking to her girlfriends, and she says, you know what? I know his character. I know where he is. I'm not worried about it. Because you know why? I'm my beloved, and his beloved is mine. She realized a lot of their problems were centered around the baggage that he brought to the marriage, which was he was a king. And he probably was a workaholic. And he was gone a lot. And so she comes, and she comes to the place of inner peace. She is the king's wife. He's away on business. She knows that he loves her, that he will protect her, and that he will provide for her. So what is she doing here, ladies? She is concentrating on his strengths and not his weaknesses. She first concentrated on how attractive he was to her. And then she concentrated on the fact that he was a good guy. He was providing for her. He was taking care of her. She worked at tending what she thought about her husband. And what she thought about him was good. And any weaknesses that he might have had, working late all the time, waking her up in the middle of the night, turning away. Do you remember when she opened the door, she would turn away instead of turning toward? We could go on and on about Solomon's weaknesses. She left those in God's hand. She left those in God's hand. Proverbs 14:1 says, every wise woman builds her house, but a foolish one tears it down. What is she telling our married sisters this morning? Tend wisely to what you think about your husband. Take captive those destructive thoughts that tear you down in your thinking. We can focus on his negative stuff all day long, and there's probably a lot there. But all it does is make you mad. So when he walks in the door, and he says, hi, honey, you don't even want him coming around you. A pastor years ago got up and preached this point of, if you'll think about your husband, your spouse, positive all day long, when they walk through the door, or when you see her standing in the kitchen, you're going to be drawn to her. I tried it. It works. I have some of my clients do that. Think positive about your husband. Tend to him wisely in your thoughts, and your sexual desires will grow. Finally, living wisely, deepening of love. To our seniors, to our late lifers here this morning. Solomon and the Shulamite model for us a lifetime of joy, a lifetime of a marriage. And their marital intimacy changed. I had a girlfriend tell me earlier today. She says, I'm learning it's different. She's about my age. but they never lost their passion for each other. Now, I know some of you are struggling with Solomon. I mean, come on. He had 700 wives and 300 concubines. He disobeyed God. He turned his back on God and married pagan women and built temples for them. But we have to make sure we understand. We aren't studying Solomon, although it would be an interesting study, don't you think? We aren't studying the culture of that day. And by the way, men and kings had large harems. As a matter of fact, half of Solomon's he inherited from King David. That was accepted. That was the culture. But we're not studying that. We're not looking at how Solomon's kingdom eventually became divided because of his disobedience. We aren't even looking at him later in life when he wrote the book of Ecclesiastes. And all throughout the book, he said, all is vanity. All is vanity. What we're looking at, what we're studying, is we're looking at a relationship between two people, the Shulamite and Solomon. We're looking at a snapshot of a relationship that was worthy to make it in God's inspired word. Because God has something to teach us. And what we're learning, that even in late life, Solomon and the Shulamite had a good relationship. Despite all of this, they had a good relationship. Solomon wrote in Ecclesiastes, all is vanity. But in Proverbs 5:18, he wrote, rejoice in the wife of your youth. And sometimes I'm wondering if the only thing good in his life was the Shulamite. So the Shulamite is living in the palace, and she longs for the mountains of Lebanon where she grew up. So she goes to Solomon. It's been a long time since I've been home. Can we take a vacation there? And so the book closes up with a return to the country where they started, where they met. They're on a vacation, and they have an experience of love, sexual love, once again. Let's pick it up and read in chapter 7, verse 11. Chapter 7, verse 11. So here the Shulamite is talking to Solomon. And she says to him, come, my beloved, let's go into the fields and lodge in the villages. Let us go out early to the vineyards and see whether the vines have budded, whether the grape blossoms have opened, and the pomegranates are in bloom. There I will give you my love. The mandrakes give forth fragrance, and beside our doors are all choice fruits, new as well as old, which I have laid up for you, oh my beloved. What's going on here? She's inviting him to go for another walk. Now you remember how he invited her to go for a walk? And everything was already in bloom? Remember that? Okay? She's inviting him to go for a walk, and it's not in bloom yet. She's saying, let's go see if they're in bloom yet. Which leads me to believe, let's go see if things work. Just contrasting. And the first walk, they ended up at the door and they said their goodbyes, and she tried to say after work, come on back by. This walk, she says, there I will give you my love. Let's see what works. There I will give you my love. I love this verse. I love this passage. I was giggling when I was reading it the other day. The mandrakes give forth fragrance. The mandrakes were aphrodisiacs. So if things aren't blooming like they used to, we'll just go get a mandrake. And beside our doors are all choice fruits, new as well as old. So what she's saying is, I've got some new ideas. We'll go to the old ones, but I've got some new ideas. And then she says, which I have laid up for you, oh my beloved. She is still physically attracted to him. She is still inviting him. She is still wanting to be sexually intimate with him. And she doesn't care who knows. If we began reading in chapter 8, verse 1. Oh, that you were like a brother to me, who nursed at my mother's breast. If I found you outside, I would kiss you, and none would despise me. I would lead you and bring you into the house of my mother, she who used to teach me. I would give you spiced wine to drink, the juice of the pomegranate. Now that's kind of weird. I wish you were my brother. No. In those days, a woman wasn't allowed to touch anybody except her father or her brother. In public, they weren't allowed to show affection to their husbands because it was considered or perceived as sexual. And so what she's saying here, if you were my brother, I would kiss you in public and no one would despise me. I wish you were my brother. You know why? Because I want to love you passionately. I want to let the floodgates open. I don't care who knows. I want to love you 24/7. There's a depth of love in their later life. She's not preoccupied with what other people think. And then not to put a damper on anything, gals, but we've got to read this. Verse 4. I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, that you not stir up or awaken love until it pleases. That's the third and final warning. This warning coming from the Shulamite later on in life. She's talking to her girlfriends and she says, you know what? I've lived through some sexual adjustments. You can have the best courting time. You can follow all the rules. You can make all the decisions. But after you get married, there's still going to be some tough issues that you're going to have to push through. The two of you are going to have to figure it out. You need to get down how to work through these foxes. And if you get sexually active before, especially if you have multiple partners, you're going to have more sexual issues. Don't stir up your passion. And how do I know that? I'm a therapist. And women and men that come in that we begin to talk, and I try to take a sexual history. And more often than not, when they're having real deep sexual issues, they've been sexual before marriage. And with each other, with multiple partners, or they've been sexually abused. One of the number one diagnoses among young men is PE, which stands for premature ejaculation. And what that is, if you don't know, that's getting to orange where your wife is still in light purple. You're getting there way too fast. It is the number one diagnosis, and it is traced back often to having sexual activity prior to marriage. Guilt for some wives over their premarital involvement. Shame over the things that were done to them, choices that were made for them. So they come in and they sit down and they have the basis that sex is wrong, that sex is dirty. And it is a huge endeavor to work with them and get that turned around. And it was something that happened prior to marriage. Unhealthy patterns form that they can't even detect. Because when you get married, life changes. Your relationship changes. And if they're sexual before, they get into those patterns. And those patterns carry in to their marriage. They're not broken. And they don't even know that they're there. Listen to me. The new morality that says that it's old-fashioned to wait, or that we live in a forward-thinking culture, and that we can live together as husband and wife, and it's not going to impact our marriage, is the old morality that has destroyed marriages for centuries. We need to follow God's guidelines. And women, we need to be ambassadors in this and go out from this classroom, from this summer study, and not put our book up on on the shelf. We need to talk to those, to our kids. We need to talk to our sisters and our brothers. We need to train them to follow God's guidelines. And then finally, there's an amazing scripture passage, verses 6 and 7. This is the Shulamite talking to Solomon. And here she is defining her love for him. She starts off and she says to Solomon, "Set me as a seal upon your heart, as a seal upon your arm. For love is strong as death, jealousy is fierce as the grave. Its flashes are flashes of fire, the very flame of the Lord. Many waters cannot quench love, neither can floods drown it. If a man offered for love all the wealth of his house, he would utterly be despised." What is she saying? Set me as a seal upon your heart, or as a seal upon your arm. In those days, you would have an engraved stone, or you would have a metal seal, and it would be on a cord, and it would be the seal of somebody who owns you, and you would wear it. And she's saying, I want to be permanently attached to you. Seal me on your heart. Seal me on your arm. And not only that, she goes on to say, this is what my love is. My love is as strong as death. My love is as fierce as the grave. Its flashes are flashes of fire. It's like the very flame of God. Wow. She's still got that love for her man. And she says, many waters cannot quench love. You know those little problems that we had in our courting day? We figured it out. We pushed through. It took perseverance, but we didn't stop working on our problems, no matter how hard it was. So there aren't any waters. There aren't any floods. The water, the issues that we've had cannot be squelched out. And if a man offered for love all the wealth of his house, he would utterly be despised. Why would a man be despised? Because he thinks he can buy this kind of love. He thinks maybe he can earn it, or he's deserving of it. This kind of love is invaluable. And it is freely given. And there is no job, there is no career, there is no fling, there is no affair, there is no personal pursuit that anyone would want to jeopardize this kind of love. There is no price tag. Finally, verses 13 and 14, the last two verses of chapter 8, the final declaration of love. Solomon says in verse 13, talking to the Shulamite, "Oh, you who dwell in the gardens with companions listening for your voice, let me hear it." She answers back, "Make haste, my beloved. Be like a gazelle or a young stag on the mountains of spice." Now just picture this with me. Just get it in your mind. This is how it's closing out. He's saying to her, "Oh, you who dwell in the gardens, companions are listening for your voice. You know what? You're pretty popular. Your girlfriends are listening for you. They want you to answer their text. They want you to pick up the cell phone and call. They want to get together with you. You've got a lot of companions, and they're at you, and I get that. But you know what? Let me hear your voice this time. We're on this vacation. You've spent enough time with those girlfriends. Let me hear it. Focus on me." Sounds like my husband. He's so good about my girlfriends. But there's times. How about us? What about us? And this wise, wise woman, she says, "Okay." Turns her phone on, puts it on silent, doesn't put it too far in case of violence. But he didn't see that. And says, "Make haste. Hurry up, my beloved. Be like that gazelle and that young stag." Okay. She knows that first flame that she felt when She looked at those ivory pillars that were legs that are no longer ivory pillars. She knows that that flame doesn't need to fizzle. And she keeps it going. Would she say to all of us in late life, live wisely. Allow your sexual love in old age to continue, to grow, to deepen. Don't give it up. Don't become roommates. Okay, we're at a reality check. Maybe you're single this morning, you've kind of just given up on meeting somebody. Maybe you're in a marriage and it's a difficult marriage. Several of the questions that we received referred to difficult marriages, and they just said, what do I do? Or maybe you're in a healthy marriage, but there's something missing. You know it. Or maybe you're like our dear sister at the beginning of this study. She submitted a question and she said, I'm 71 years old, I've been by myself for 27 years. What's the song got for me? How do we deal with unwanted singleness, difficult marriages, stale relationships? We deal with it by answering this question. What makes this song above all other songs? Why is this book, as it opens up in chapter 1, verse 1, why is it called the Song of Songs? It's called the Song of Songs because it speaks to our deepest longings. It speaks to the longings of love that we all have, that God put there, that we want to be loved unconditional. And we want to have somebody in our life that we can depend on. It speaks to our longing for passion. We don't want to live a monotonous, boring life. We want it to be filled with things that make us come alive and feel alive. It speaks to our longing for pleasure. God put the need to be physical and enjoy pleasure with another person, with another, our spouse, with another man, without feeling degraded. It speaks to the longing of our deep, deep desire for a soulmate. Now, we know that all Scripture points us to God. And why is this the song above all other songs? Because it points us past the Shulamite and Solomon. And it points us to the lover of our soul, Jesus Christ, who can satisfy all of our longings. You know, God can still provide an unexpected relationship for you. And He can still heal a difficult marriage. But even in all of that, it pales to the experience that we can have with a God who moved heaven and earth to have a relationship with us. He passionately pursues us, and if we know that, it changes everything. It takes my breath away to think that the God of the universe wants to have a relationship with me. Revelation 19:7 says, let us rejoice and exalt and give Him the glory. For the marriage of the Lamb has come, and the bride has made herself ready, and we are that bride. We are that bride. We're going to ask you next week to wear white. Do not wear your old wedding dress. Something little. Something big. I'm going to wear white pants. White t-shirt. And I know the old tradition, you're not supposed to wear white to a wedding, you know, because brides are supposed to, I don't know, that bride changed, I'm really dated, aren't I? We're the bride. Next week we're going to have a wedding. And we want you to come wearing white. The last verse in the song. Make haste, my beloved, and be like the gazelle. Last verses in Revelation. Even so, come, Lord Jesus.